Good afternoon, dear televiewers, and welcome to La Télévision du Monde. Thank you for joining us for a new and yet another edition of Voice It, your program which actually gives the opportunity to all the actors and even me right here to voice it, to actually be like the voice of the voiceless, to say out those things that people out there would love to hear or that would love others to share so that their problems can be solved. Well, since the 4th of September 2023 was school reopening day, we have decided to dedicate entirely the month of September to this very noble profession. People say the profession of journalism is also noble, but the most noble profession, in my point of view, is the teaching profession, which of course in Cameroon is losing its value in one way or the other. This because we have seen many uprisings here in Cameroon begin only because teachers went down to the streets. We have seen some teachers, and most of them going down to the streets to complain or deciding to stop teaching because their revendications have not been heeded to. Most of these teachers, these lords of the chalks, are those actually that made us what we are. Let me not say most of them. They are actually the reason why we are existing, and we should pay homage to them. This is yet another edition of the program, and for sure we are going to pay homage to teachers the right way it should be done. Let's first of all get this little music that pays homage to teachers from BC Mac, and then we shall be back to introduce our panel.
Massa Jean, mon maître du cours préparatoire, à la retraite, était obligé d'aller louer la plantation d'un parent d'élève pour cultiver la terre afin de joindre les deux bouts. Et pourtant, il avait enseigné tous les décideurs de ce monde. Massa Jean, voilà qu'au cours de ses travaux champêtres, il s'est fait mordre par un serpent. Conduit à l'hôpital, il a fini par rendre l'âme sur le banc des urgences. Dans l'indifférence totale des médecins qu'il avait enseignés, des infirmiers qu'il avait enseignés, des autres malades et gardes malades que Massa Jean avait enseignés. Massa Jean. Massa Jean. Les chefs d'État
ont été à l'école.
Les hommes de Dieu
ont été à l'école.
Les députés
ont été à l'école.
Les bailleurs de fonds
ont été à l'école.
Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec tous ces gens qui ont été à l'école? Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec toutes ces valeurs qui ont été enseignées? Les journalistes
ont été à l'école.
Leur Majesté
ont été à l'école.
Les magistrats
ont été à l'école.
Tous les soldats
ont été à l'école.
Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec tous ces gens qui ont été à l'école? Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec toutes ces valeurs qui ont été enseignées?
Dis-moi qui fut ton enseignant.
Dis-moi, allez. Massajan. Ilalo, oh, oh, ilalo, oh, oh, allo. Ilalo, allo, allo. Ilalo, oh, oh, ilalo, oh, ilalo, allo, oh, allo. Nous allons parcourir ce matin quelques syllabes de la langue française. Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec tous ces gens qui ont été à l'école? Dites-moi, un enseignant devrait-il souffrir dans ce monde avec toutes ces valeurs qui ont été enseignées?
Dis-moi qui fait ton nom, Seigneur. Dis-moi qui fait ton nom, Seigneur.
Allo, Massajan. Ilalo, oh, oh, ilalo, oh, oh, allo. Ilalo, allo, allo. Ilalo, oh, oh, ilalo, oh, ilalo, allo, oh, allo.
Thank you very much, Ramses Njoko, who is on the dashboard and equally heading this program technically. Thank you for your support. Now, after listening to that very nice piece of music to start the program this day, we also recall that even the head of state had a teacher. Yes, that's exactly basically what he's saying in that song, which pays homage to the teachers and also retraces, comes back to all the problems that teachers go through in the world and even in Cameroon. Why not? Well, now, just without much ado, we are going to go straight to introducing the very first panelist today. He's an educationist and a member of the civil society. He's the first time he's coming here with, to join us, and I'm beginning with him because the other two faces are very familiar faces to voice it, and it's with a lot of honor, of course, despite being called and invited on a short notice. Mr. Celestine Halle decided to be with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to LTM TV.
Good afternoon, Madam.
Flora, I'll prefer.
Madam Flora.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We're going to have a couple of issues to discuss today, and certainly it's all going to be concerning your sector of activity, which is about education, and we are delightfully going to have your point of view on that. Second, still just beside him is Ernest Akufo from the civil society, and also another educationist, because he is somebody who has had an experience equally in that sector and who is definitely going to have a lot to tell us about this. Good afternoon and welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon, Flora. It's always been a pleasure being on set to talk topical issues, especially the one concerning education. You know, from the music we just listened to, the artist was singing the praises of teachers. They are the ones who build society, and there is every reason to acclaim the teachers. So I just hope that within the time span we spend here, we'll bring out the advantages and the difficulties, challenges which the teachers are facing, especially at the beginning of the 2023-2024 school year.
We are going to talk about teachers in the public, both in the public and the private sector this day, and that's going to be with a lot of pleasure because it's going to be an opportunity for us to also talk about this deck chalk operation which has been launched by a group of teachers called OTS, On Attrop Supporté. That's French name given for it. Well, it like means that they've had enough and it's time for their plight to be heard. They have about 2 revendications which are the major ones, even though amongst those they have other problems. Also, secondly, on this program we shall be talking also about issues concerning reopening and exactly how teachers are preparing in the private schools to in fact to face the 2023-2024 school year, what they are doing at that level. The third person that we are going to have on set here is Hilary Bower. He is a teacher equally in the private sector, and he is already used to being here with us. He's always around. He's on my right side. Good afternoon, Hilary, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, the flourishing Flora. Always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure having you here this afternoon, like every other time. We thank you all for those watching us from all over Cameroon and even across Cameroon. We are broadcasting live on 308, and that's on Canal Sat. If you want to get to us, the number that you shall be seeing on under the screen, the two numbers are actually the numbers that you would have to use if you want to call us, or not call us, excuse me, if you want to send us messages and tell us exactly what you think about these topics that we are going to be handling this afternoon. The first topic, without much ado, is concerning this strike action that was launched, I think about a year ago. The same strike action came up with this group of teachers on Atro Supporter, the OTS actually, which is a group of teachers in the public sector, most of them, and precisely of the secondary school education, who are claiming that the government owes them certain dues. They are asking for a special status, and they are asking for the payment of their dues, which to them are supposed to be paid even before they get into the classes to start teaching. That's the reason why they are launching the Operation Dead Choke. Now let's go right away to watch this report that was done on Monday, the 4th actually September 2023, on school reopening day, the day actually when they decided to launch. And we are going to have in that report one of the people representing the OTS movement, who has things to say about their movement and exactly how they intend proceeding. Let's just follow this report and then we shall be back to continue. Hours to the new school year, teachers relaunch the Operation Dead Chalk under the French acronym On a trop supporté, OTS, to express their grievances against the government for not fulfilling the promises made on March 9, 2023. The OTS movement, in a release dated Thursday, August 31st, called on all the teachers to go to school on Monday, September 4th, dressed in black, sign their presences, return to the staff hall or on the schoolyard, take pictures and videos and publish them on social media.
But we have just two objectives for this strike. The first one is that we want the government to sign and apply the revised special status that we submitted at the presidency of the Republic last year. That was on the 18th of March 2022. And the second objective is that we want the government to pay all the money that it owes teachers. We have people who are expecting arrears of their reclassification. Some are expecting arrears of the advancement. Some are expecting duty allowances. Some are expecting family allowances, and so many other categories. The
OTS on a trop supporté release also called on the teachers to avoid falling in the trap of being intimidated by their hierarchies, as this is the opportunity for them to say exactly what their problems are.
We do not want to mar the school year. On the contrary, we want to make sure that this school year is a successful one. You know, for many years we've been working under terrible conditions. Can you imagine that there are teachers who worked from 1980, and some of them have gone on retirement, some are even dead already, and they have not yet received their advancement and reclassification allowances up to date.
This other strike of the OTS was announced just a few hours to the new school year. Thank you very much for that report, Njuku, and we are going to continue the program right now by discussing with our guest concerning, of course, this On a trop supporté strike action which has been launched by this group of teachers at the wake of the back to school for the year 2023-2024. Now, let me start with you, Ernest Akufo. What would you say? Do you think that these teachers actually are doing the right thing to launch a strike just at the beginning of a school year? Is it not a way of saying that they are blackmailing the government into fulfilling what, according to them, are their rights?
You end it rather good by talking of your rights. You see, rights are not given. You seize your rights. You fight for your rights. I think these teachers, since last year, they had a bone of contention with the education stakeholders. I mean, the ministry in charge of education, because of their rights, as you rightly end there. And the ministry in charge of finance. So these rights, at one point in time, the officials, the state officials, they tried to come in and for an understanding, a memorandum of understanding to be arrived at. If today, at the eve of school resumption, the teachers again came out, it is maybe one party did not respect the terms of the contract, which is the government. I won't want to mince words. It's not like sabotage or blackmail of government officials or the education system, no. Teachers, as I've noticed in our society, are not given their right place, the place which belongs to them, because I've equally been once a teacher, and the plight of teachers should be what bothers everybody well. Because I'll just take a simple example of the men in uniform without being specific. You see, they are being taught by teachers, like the artist did say. The president went to a teacher, ministers through teachers, doctors, the men in uniform. Everybody went to a teacher or through a classroom, and you cannot go sit in the classroom and nobody teaches you. Somebody teaches you, and that person must be venerated. That person must be respected. That person must live well. But when you look at the conditions of the teachers today in our society, because I know in the days old, fortunately I schooled in a village environment, teachers were demigods. But it beats my imagination today that teachers, they are considered by some to represent virtually nothing. Even those that schooled in the cities, way back, teachers were considered like demigods. I'm talking about the village setting in which I schooled. When you saw a teacher coming, you couldn't look at the teacher straight in the eye. Impossible. There were very many things which made the teacher feel big, and that's why so many people went into the teaching profession. Teaching like a profession. But today the reverse is true. Not only are the working conditions poor, not only the education stakeholders not giving the befitting treatment to teachers, but the worst of it all is the pupils and students, what they do to their teachers. Well, I can't open that can here. It's a whole can of worms, what the pupils and students do to their teachers. Exactly. It's regrettable. So when you look at all of that situation, you begin to ask yourself, do the teachers merit the treatment they are getting from the pupils, from the students, from the education stakeholders? And what's involved from the government? From the government, yeah. When we talk of education stakeholders, talking from the government, because it's really appalling the treatment which is being meted on teachers. Yes, either by the pupils, either by the students, or the ministry in charge, the ministries in charge. Whether these teachers are not making a sabotage of the government officials, I don't want to think so. I want to believe that they are just revendicating, they are just making claims to what they are due, and following the MOU or the understanding which is signed with the ministries in charge and the Ministry of Finance. Because I could have heard somebody saying that a teacher has been teaching since 1980 and the situation hasn't changed. You see, the National Forum on Education, which was organized far back sometimes, the resolutions arrived at there. It's very unfortunate that they were kept, some were kept in the drawers and they were not being implemented. So today, I think that there is an urgent need for another forum, National Forum on Education, so that we lay things straight. What treatment should be given by teachers? Because today very many things are happening in the education milieu. The Ministry of Basic Education, Secondary Education, decided that girl students who are pregnant should remain in school. Those are all things which are supposed to go through a forum, so that there is brainstorming to know whether such students should be admitted to school. There is this issue of mass promotion, I think, in the primary. It's supposed to go through a forum. The teacher is supposed to tell us, do we adopt that? There is this issue of students suffering from the hands of teachers. There is the issue of the cancelling of corporal punishment. I think all of those things are supposed to be brainstormed at the national forum. The teachers giving their views and the education officials giving their views. But when it is single-handedly done by the people at the ministry without knowing what is down there, I think there's a missing link, and all of that's supposed to be put on the table, examined, and we come out with a level playing ground, so that the teachers feel free teaching the students. The students know they have, let me call it their gods. Teachers are gods to students, to pupils. Yes, because they impart knowledge on the pupils and the students. But the students and pupils forget to know somewhere that what the teachers are doing to them, if they were left in a vacuum, they will have nothing to take home about.
You have outlined so many interesting aspects of the teaching profession and exactly what it is becoming today, and it sounds really interesting, because I guess that we're going to have the opportunity to get into the little details of what goes around this teaching profession, which is quite important. Of course, you talked about teachers being considered like demigods. To be very honest, that's exactly the way I looked at my teachers. All right away to university, I could not even sit on the same bench with my teacher in church. You know, I would leave whenever I see my teacher coming close to me, because out of respect, I just say to myself, I don't want my teacher to look at me differently from the way he sees me as a student in class. Well, Mr. Celestine Halle,
Yes,
thank
Flora.
you for accepting our invitation once again.
You're welcome.
The Black Chalk operation, which goes under the French acronym On a trop supporté, what appraisal can you have of it? And as a teacher, actually, what would you say about that at this moment?
Well, thank you, Flora, for giving me the opportunity. I think that the Dutch Chalk campaign by the OTS members, as my elder brother Ernest Akofo have said, they are very right to ask for their rights. And you know, as he said, nobody can give you your rights if you don't fight for the rights. It is their place, if they see or realize that they are cheated as per their profession, for them to request or ask the government to give what duly belongs to them. That is justice, as a philosopher Plato says. And therefore, they have every right to ask for what belongs to them, what is due to them, so that government can also give them the privileges that other professions do enjoy. You know, as my elder brother rightly said, the teachers are pushed to the background in the society. All those who pass through the teachers enjoy certain privileges, in quotes, whereas the teachers are there, they don't enjoy these privileges. So if the members of the OTS are out campaigning for Dutch Chalk, that teachers should not go to class until their special status is being signed. We know, like some said in the social media, that these teachers are campaigning for the Dutch Chalk, whereas all of what was promised them by the government has been done. But I want to think that far from it, as per what I saw the other television media talking about the other day, the statutes have been signed, but all of these have not been implemented.
Yes.
So
there's a difference, there's a gap between the signing of the statutes and the implementation.
You're very right. So what they are fighting for is the implementation of these statutes that government signed. And I want to think that the head of state, in one of his communiques last year, when the OTS members went out on strike, requested government to meet up with their request, but up to now nothing has been done.
Most of them are even complaining that some have even died.
Yes.
Like
it's
we had
true.
we had the case of a teacher that had been teaching in somewhere around the North region
Yes,
that died.
died.
Unfortunately, a member of the OTS also in that area, and that died. And
Yes.
after teaching for close to 10
10
years,
years,
had not
right.
received even a dime.
True.
So God knows how was this man living, how was
Living,
his
that is
family,
it.
how was he fending for his family,
That
how
is
was
right.
he going about it.
You see?
Now, talking about the special status, Mr. Hale,
Yes,
one of the OTS members actually tries to explain here that the index of normal civil servants stands at 1,400,
Yes.
and theirs ends only at 1,140, meaning that as civil servants they cannot progress when they reach a certain level. Just
yeah.
like every other civil servant, after several years gets
they
a
have some
promotion,
yeah.
or leaves one status to another.
That's true.
That's exactly what they say when they talk about the
Yes, that
special
is the
status.
situation with the teachers, especially the government teachers, because even as an educationist that I am, I'm not of the government department. I work in the private and I do other things, but I will not say they should not fight for their rights, because if other professions have different status that they experience as they stay their longevity in service, why not the teacher?
Exactly.
Why not the teacher? Even talking about teachers as a whole, if you want to compare with other countries, take for example only in South Africa, the status of a teacher is that which we cannot even mention with respect to the status of teachers in our country. And why is government being hard on copying the good example of other countries that they give good status to their teachers? Because as you rightly say, and my elder brother Enes Kofo, the teacher is the one who trains all other all people in the other professions. Be it the military, be it
the journalists
that you are, and others, you name them, for the politicians. But all these other professions have better working conditions than the teacher.
From my generation, honestly, I would like to say to you that all the way from primary school right up to university,
Yes.
I have kept a very good memory and at times very good relationship with my teachers,
Which
because
is
they are
good.
people that I respect enormously. I will not lie to you.
Which is
Even
good.
my teacher and the person that supervised my project in the University of Buea, till today we have really very good relationship, and we are on a talking basis. It's somebody that advises me every time, and I see in him somebody who is much more than a teacher, somebody who can advise me, same like he used to advise me when it comes to education. He keeps doing it. Like now I can have a problem in my social life and I have a shoulder to cry on.
Okay.
That's also another role that a teacher plays, which cannot be undermined.
Right.
Now let's talk with Mr. Hillary to say that these teachers are not only complaining about this so-called special status, they are actually complaining about not having access to several allowances, like risk allowances, like water, electricity, health, and wearing of lab jackets, etc., for those who are science teachers.
That's correct. The situation of the teacher in Cameroon today is deplorable. Yeah, those of the public sector who are crying should know that their colleagues of the private sector, well, I'm talking of the majority, not all those in the private sector, are experiencing.
Apparently, those of the private sector are kind of better.
No, better. They are not better at all.
Well,
in fact, they are experiencing something worse.
Don't even go there. That's the worst.
Private schools like mine, you know, my founder is somebody, he doesn't joke with his teachers.
Oh, that's
His
great.
teachers are far better of the international school, Creative Passion.
That's great.
National School at Ojapega. That said, permit me to bring in this anecdote, this short true story. I was discussing with a Francophone colleague who is so much in love with the English language. He knows the advantages, but unfortunately for him, he told me he went to a certain school in the west, or which region. They had just one Anglophone teacher who came all the way from ENS, but the Anglophone teacher left because she taught for some months and was not paid. So her life was so miserable. No food, nothing as shelter, nothing to eat. So they were left like that, and they spent all their secondary school life without a teacher. Somebody graduates from ENS, the person is taken maybe from the northwest or from the south and sent to one village in the north, and there is no money, how would the person cope? The salary is not flowing. How does the person cope? So it is so frustrating. It is so frustrating. I don't think that these teachers are asking for much. They are not asking for much. You find somebody who has been teaching, like the case that was cited a short while ago, for donkey years and has even gone on retirement, then he still owed him. That is not. It sounds unbelievable. I can't even imagine. I don't know whether teachers are taken as underdogs, they are taken as monkeys. Perhaps they have been quiet. I think waiting for them to go on strike is not the best thing. The government should be proactive. The government should be proactive. Ask the teachers what their problems are and then see how you can remedy the situation. You don't have to wait for them to go on strike. A hungry man is an angry man. So these teachers are hungry and that's why they are angry. Yeah, that's the simple thing in the common man's language.
Exactly.
And they have the right to express to air out their grievances.
So
I think it's high time the government did something to remedy the situation. They are not asking for much. If I go,
they're just asking for what is.
If I take the case of Germany and most Western countries, teachers are the most highly paid workers in that part of the world, in those parts of the world. I remember there was a time that something went viral on the social media. The former German Chancellor, Angela, if I'm not mistaken.
Merkel.
Exactly. Lawyers, medical practitioners, and other workers threatened to go on strike in Germany. And then she called for them. She called for their leaders, had a meeting with them, and asked them a simple rhetorical question that they were unable to answer. So what was the question? You medical doctor, you engineer, you whoever, lawyer, all of you of different professions, how do you expect me to be comparing you to somebody who taught you, and even taught me seated here?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what Chief was trying to raise a while ago. I think there's a song, I would have loved that I even play that song. Very nice.
We're not going to have time because we have a second topic and we're going to have about 20
in
to
subsequent
25 minutes.
programs we may go back to that song. Yeah, so in that song, the artist is just like saying that everybody passes through the teacher. I think every civilized society doesn't joke with its teachers. I mean, if a teacher is not well paid, he becomes psychologically traumatized and it affects the quality of the service he renders. Look at teachers unwilling to teach. What becomes of the children? It's going to, and then we have videos that have gone viral on the social media of teachers eating children's food.
Yes, you're just taking us to what is going to be the next video that we're going to watch right now, and so we might just make a little
in Cameroon have become so miserable, and it's high time. The government has a cardinal role to play. I'm not saying that the government has to do it alone. I'm talking about the employers, but the government has a cardinal role, about 70%. Look at the subventions. Some lay private and mission schools who complain that they cannot pay their teachers well because the subvention has dropped drastically. So the government has a cardinal role to play. But I'm not saying that this happens in every, as regards the private teachers who are experiencing something worse. It doesn't change the fact that there are some good private schools, especially international schools like mine, where I am Creative Passion, where teachers are quite comfortable.
Okay.
Because the proprietor is somebody who has invested a lot in education. He himself is an educationist. He understands what teachers are going through, and he doesn't joke with his teachers. He makes them quite comfortable so that they can deliver the goods. I always say that when you work at the American Embassy, even with the first school living certificate, the way they pay you, you are motivated to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say there. And I must appraise, I must venerate my founder, the venerable Mr. Eno, who doubles as the proprietor of Hipbamas University. It branches in Yaoundé, Boya, Douala, and also the owner of many businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that
I
takes us
just
to
plead that other employers of the private sector, not just the government, they should do something similar. This is very serious. it's not just about teachers.
We're going to have time to talk about that
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
last section of the program that we are going to
Motivate them, pay them well,
introduce.
so that they can
Of
do the
course,
job.
because you made mention of a video there that has gone viral on the internet from the first day of school. Actually, it's actually the image. I'm trying to describe it right now because honestly, it's good to watch the image and see exactly what goes on in there. Of a little baby that suddenly is in Nursery 1, first experience in school, and has something, because some kids can really be very smart, you know, all the way from home.
That's
it depends on the kind of
They
education
can
that you give
over-report.
to your
Over-report
child.
what happened.
There are children that go to nursery school. Honestly, when you hear them talk, it's like they had been in school like 1 year or 2 years before. And this child, immediately, the first report that he gives to his mother is, "La maîtresse a mangé ma nourriture." It is really terrible. This is what some teachers have been reduced to, or what many people can have as image of the teachers being portrayed. At times even that food has to be tasted. Why not? It could be that reason. It's not that maybe the teacher even ate the food. Let's not get into all the conclusions that maybe, but we know that at least there are some teachers that fall into that trap of committing such atrocities. I call it atrocities because it's horrible. You don't dare as an adult have the food of a little child as small as 4 or 5 years old. You eat the food, and how do you expect that child to manage before getting back home after being so tired at the end of the day? We know how it is. Let's just watch this small video and then we shall be back to comment really rapidly about it, because we have a second topic before we close.
Mon amour, c'était comment aujourd'hui? Eh chérie, la maîtresse a fait quoi? Oh mieux. Elle est où? Où? On part du bail à la maîtresse. On part.
In this studio, and that video, certainly for most of you who are very connected to the social media, must have watched it. It got me really laughing, and after laughing I was wondering, but why am I really laughing? This is not funny. How can a child as small as that, the very first thing that he relays to his mother is comment a été la journée aujourd'hui? Ça va, la maîtresse, c'est elle là-bas, elle a mangé ma nourriture. Mr. Halle,
yes.
What kind of image can you have of that kind of?
Well, Flores, you know, this is not really funny.
Yes.
But then, when you listen to that child talk, you begin to imagine whether the madam, the child's madam, really ate the food, or the madam was taking care of the food. We cannot jump
How
into
do you take care of food?
Well, you know,
when the child said that the food was eaten.
Well, if the madam ate the food, we will not be surprised, because some teachers, as we have already said, their conditions are very deplorable, such that anything comes their way, they will want to make good use of it. They will want to use the advantage. But then it does not speak well for a teacher. No matter the little salary that you receive wherever you are, whether you're a private teacher, a government teacher, I think you should make yourself comfortable and maintain your dignity. I have always said it, as a private teacher, whom I am, my dignity is the most important.
Exactly.
And that is why in any school I teach, you can do any other thing to me, but when you touch my dignity, I put the chalk down and
you don't take that even coming from the students, because
yes.
You know, in recent times we have seen students becoming quite abusive
very
towards
true.
their teachers,
Yes.
and we wonder where this phenomenon actually comes from.
No, you
Children
know,
who think that because their parents are governors or ministers or this,
that is it. That is
they
just
become
what I was
indisciplined
trying to say.
and-
You see, many students who come from rich families think that they have everything, such that they can do and undo.
If they could have everything, then they would not come to school
That
for
is
education.
one thing. When we talk of everything in quotes, they mean properties,
Yeah.
money, and so on. So they can act the way they want to act. But then they forget to know that knowledge is not money. Money can buy everything, but there are things money will not buy.
Absolutely.
And so if the madam at the foot of the child, it is really uncalled for, because it is bringing down her image as a teacher. Even if she was hungry,
dignity.
yes, even if she was hungry, I think that there is a right thing that she would have done to get something to eat instead of eating the child's food.
Mr. Edes, would you have something to chip in into that? Of Mr. Harless?
I would say it's so demeaning.
Yeah.
It's demeaning in the sense that when a teacher goes and eats the snack of the pupils, it's very, very disheartening. I don't see how you expect that pupil to live without the snacks the whole day. And I think I've gone through this experience. I've witnessed it. It's not like we're exaggerating here. No. Because I said I've once been a teacher, and I've witnessed this in the nursery, where the teacher, the lady, just like in that case, she was fond of eating the snacks of a child who came from a well-to-do family. Yes, and because she knew that the snacks were well done, they were rich. It's rather too demeaning for a teacher.
That's horrible. You can't go that low, stoop that low just for food.
Well, even when some don't steal it, when they don't steal it, when the child takes it, they'll take the child to bring, and that they want to feed the child, and you know what happens thereafter. It's really regrettable, but this again gets to the cause and effect relationship. Yes, because if the teachers were being well remunerated, I don't think that they will have to go that low in order to get to the child's snacks. It's horrible. I want to say it. It's horrible that because at times they do that. They eat all of the snacks, and the child will always think that it is maybe the other pupils or students in class, which is not good. The fervent plea for the teachers' salaries to be revalorized,
to avoid such things,
to avoid such things in future, because my brother was talking about conditions of the teachers in some schools. I know the private and public sector, these are two different worlds. In the private sector, the teachers are marginalized. Permit me use that strong word, marginalized, because the proprietor will tell you, well, if you don't want to teach, there are some people at the door knocking. The applications are in my office. It's not good like that. And when you get to those of the public sector, you know, they have too much time at their disposal. They can always do what they can do.
Because they're civil servants.
Yes,
they get to school at by midday, by 1 p.m. they're back.
They're gone. So it's a fervent call. I still say again that it's time there is another forum on education for very many things to be laid down straight, like the status the teachers here we're talking about. The teachers' status should be signed, because do you know most of the teachers, they don't go on the on mission, whereas the other go on mission. And they have mission allowances. But it's rather unfortunate that teachers don't go on mission. I begin to ask myself,
they don't have risk allowances equally. That was mentioned, because a teacher that is harassed by a student, for example, in a classroom, how does he protect himself against that kind of thing? A student who becomes recalcitrant and becomes even delinquent, and that gets into school without security, of course, because security at this beginning of the school year period is reinforced in most of the schools, given the fact that many unfortunate incidents, of course, took place in the past years. We saw teachers literally killed by their own students. And
so I think the need for another forum on education, because there will be very many things which will be discussed there, and decisions arrived should be implemented there and there, because this issue is all about it's a three-way traffic. It's the pupils, students, they have their responsibility, the teachers have, and then the education authorities, they have.
And the parents equally.
Even parents, but you know, education begins from home. When they tell you lack of home education, it means you've been damaged.
That's quite serious.
Yes, because home education is the basic of education. because from home you learn very many things from your parents.
You are groomed on how to behave in the society.
Yes, before you get to the society. It is not the teacher. The teachers are just orientating the pupils and students. The most thing comes from the family, because if your parents don't tell you to respect somebody, some teachers may not even teach you those ethics. Because today we hear of civic education, moral education. Our society, moral has been thrown to the dogs in our society. So much so that we only think that, as Celestine, my small man was saying, that most pupils or students from well-to-do families think that they are everything. That
they have it all.
Yeah, that doesn't augur well. Yes, because that is because from the education they get from their family, they feel that since at home my father has cars. Flora, what do you expect of a student who comes to school, chauffeur driven, and then the teacher treks with his shoes who are worn out? God.
I think the religious, if we have to look at that other part of it, because I went through boarding schools, and actually I went through a religious educational system. Right till today, I realize that that is still being implemented. That myth of teachers still exists there somehow, because once a student becomes recalcitrant, even if his governor father or his minister or his director general father comes and that child is a delinquent, the child is going to be expelled, whether the school fees was already paid half of the term or half of the school year or not. The child is expelled and nothing is reimbursed. I've seen that kind of rigor, Mr. Hillary. Let's quickly get out of this and get into the next topic, which is going to be just a couple of minutes for us to give you the opportunity, because I realize most of you here are in the private sector, to tell us exactly how it's being prepared in the private sector.
All right, what I can say on this issue, there is no doubt that it is so disgusting. It's a disgrace to the noble profession. Teaching is known as the noble profession. As a teacher, you need to have that moral standing that will earn you the respect that we're talking about. So it is rather unfortunate that these things are happening, and society, parents to a certain extent are to blame, the government is to blame. How? The first international school where I taught in 2015, I saw colleagues borrowing money from students. Yes, and I decried it, and the colleagues said, what? Hey, I became like...
That is so horrible.
I became a proud man. So I became a proud man. That's the adjective they used to call it, that I'm haughty proud. So it is so demeaning. It is true that a lot has to be done to better, to improve the conditions of work.
Apart from borrowing money, others even go as far as accepting drinks from their students.
As my colleague, Mr. Harley, was saying, that we have poor conditions of work does not give us the latitude, to stoop so low as to seizing food from children in the kindergarten and eating, or borrowing money from students. I think that is condemnable. It is so disgusting, and it's a disgrace to the noble profession.
Well, those are the kind of examples and anecdotes that are given today, and these are things that actually are witnessed by teachers and students. But what remains and what should be fundamental is that the myth, the mystery that should exist always between the student and the teacher should not go away, because this denatures completely exactly the essence of education. Because when you cannot even fear the person who teaches you, it's not like fear because the person is having a whip or something. No, when you cannot have that kind of fearful respect, that's how I call it, you cannot assimilate any of the things that the person is trying to send across to you when it comes to education. Now we are just going to get into the next topic without transition, because we are already into it, and I hope you get your messages coming through the numbers that you can see below your screen. Thank you very much once again for the technical team for all you're doing, and thank you gentlemen for accepting the invitation. But well, now we are going to ask you, Mr. Hale, as a teacher in the private sector, what exactly some of these measures that have been put in place? How prepared are you in the private sector to embrace this academic year which has just started?
Well, thank you, Flora, once again. So far as this new academic year is concerned, I am very prepared as usual, because I've been in the teaching field. This is my 19th year,
Wow, you're a
And
veteran.
for these 19 years,
So
I
you're one
have
of those
been
that they
able-
call please sir everywhere on the street.
They don't even call me please sir, they call Pa Hale.
Aha.
My students call me Pa Hale. Like
Because
you've
you're
said.
imposing and you impose respect.
Yes, and as you've said, I just wish to share an opinion or an experience with us. A couple of weeks ago, I came across two of my students that I taught them in 2014.
Wow.
And they saw me, they were so surprised. They shouted Pale Pale. When I turn and look at
You
them,
haven't changed much.
they were shouting, "Sir, you do not even change. Since we left 10 years ago, you are still looking so young, the same way we love you." So you see, for the school year, as you said, 2023, 2024, we have always been prepared with our lessons, with everything we have to do as teachers. We know the task that lies ahead of us, except a teacher who does not know what he or she is out for,
Yeah.
who will start a school year unprepared. Because you know, with the advent of the CBA, teaching is no longer like in those years where when we were students. You have a lot of work to do in order to prepare your lessons, how to deliver the lesson in class, and also how to embrace the different caliber of students that you have. Because in the schools that we teach, without calling any name, I for one, the students know what it takes. Even if they are not in the right position, we direct them. And so the only thing we have as difficulty is the fact that no matter the longevity you have in service, unlike our colleagues of the government, where they gain some little advantages, you in the private sector teaching in a school for 13 years, you cannot even have anything to show off.
Mr. Hale, but I believe from everything that you've just said and the encounter you had with some of your former students,
Yes.
I believe that some of these, the parents of these students were quite satisfied with the work that you did.
No, quite
to make their
satisfied.
children become what they are today.
Yes.
So it has not even stopped some of them who are maybe well-to-do or very
That is right,
very good
Flora.
hearts to help you out
That
once
is
in a
right.
while, or to
That
give
is
you little
why
envelopes here and there.
I
Those are the
can
kind of
testify.
advantages that teachers of the private sector, of the public sector, do
Or
not
the
have as
private.
much as those of the private.
Yeah, you are right. And as you are saying, I just wish to testify that these students that I met with them after so many years,
They are doing well,
what
I
they
suppose.
offered to me that day, I don't just want to pronounce it.
Oh, wow.
Because I
Oh,
was,
you can do it.
I
You can
was
pronounce
so surprised.
You can.
Seeing that the two of them gave me an envelope which I took, just entered my car, drove away, and when I arrived home, I took that envelope. I was able to see 100,000 francs
Wow.
inside that
Oh my
envelope
God.
that was offered to
Wow.
me by this former
Look at
student
this.
10 years back.
Wow.
And what really surprised me is the fact that these students told me when they were in school, when I was teaching them, they considered me as one of their worst teacher because I was always hard.
Very strict.
But it is later in their lifetime
That they realized that it was for a
realized
good
that
cause.
what I was doing to them was for a good cause.
Exactly.
And if they are what they are today, it is thanks to the hard ways that I use on them. And
I love
so,
to hear such testimonies,
yes, I was
Mr. Hale.
so happy about it.
It's very heartwarming
Yes,
to know
it's
that.
something that any person will be happy about it.
I guess that's the reason why some of us are still in the profession even after 20
I'm telling
years,
you,
because
yes.
the love and the joy that
That
you get
is
from
it.
your fans, or the warmth that you get from people that remind you that, hey, you're doing well,
That is
you're
it.
doing good.
Because at times,
Keeps you going.
Flora, you think of even withdrawing, but you look at some of these advantages that come from the students that you have taught,
or people that look up to you.
Yes, people who look up to you. You say no, you just have to keep going.
We have a couple of minutes to go. Thank you so much. Very good testimony right there, Mr. Hale. I'm so impressed, honestly. And we say hello to some of these your former students.
Yes.
Maybe somewhere at home they are watching us, and
Yes.
it will be certainly an opportunity for you to say hello to some of them, or maybe your
Really,
co-workers,
really,
or
really. Thank you.
in fact, before we separate, like
Yeah.
we'll be saying goodbye in a couple of minutes. Hilary, this testimony actually opened up my eyes. Teachers today of the private sector, do you think that they are better off than those of the public sector? Secondly, as a teacher of the private sector, are you well prepared for this academic school year, and what are the projections?
Teachers of the public sector are far better than those of the private sector. Yes, I'm talking of the majority. There are a few exceptional cases where you have private schools that government teachers even envy. So it is abundantly clear. I don't want to delve into the details and talk about their meager salaries and deplorable conditions of work as what obtains in most of the schools. If you remember, in 2020, during the shutdown of schools necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic, teachers went for about 8 months without a salary. So how do they cope in Yaoundé? Landlords, landladies will not understand. You tell them, they don't understand. They say, no, je compte sur ça pour vivre. So
others were organizing private classes. Yes. At least they could get something out of it.
Yeah, the COVID-19, who even had the courage to go out? In the early people were afraid. Who were afraid. No parent would even want you to come and contaminate his son with COVID-19. People were afraid.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how many people were even going out? So those of the public sector have a lot of advantages. I'm not saying that their conditions of work are so marvelous. No, they have a lot of problems, issues they have raised. And then there are some private schools, including my own at Oja, Creative Passion, which is quite exceptional, extraordinary. In terms of preparation for the back to school, I think it varies from school to school. If you look at the theme for this year's academic year, there's a lot of emphasis laid on digitalization
of the system,
digitalization of education.
I think it's a new aspect that's been introduced.
If you look at, that's exactly what we are doing in Creative Passion International School Fega Football Jar,
giving access to children to
yes,
internet.
Every child has a tablet, an iPad offered to the child free of charge. So the iPad has apps that will enable, that facilitate the learning process. For instance, you have a game, and in that game, in the course of playing the game, you learn Chinese, you learn English, you learn Spanish, you learn mathematics. So the white man has made learning so easy. But we have partners from the UK, from the US, from China, and from Canada.
Is there nothing there that can really make us to envy our old and traditional conventional ways?
When I look at, sometimes I even when I see the benefits that the pupils they get, I become envious. I say, oh, in our own time, if we had things like this,
we had counting sticks.
You cannot. I don't want to talk
about boards.
Yeah, I'm telling you, as you have the iPad, and we are even planning to train our parents to, so that even at home you can be using it along with your child. Just by playing your game, you are not just enjoying the game, but you are learning mathematics, learning English grammar, learning vocabulary, learning Spanish, learning all of those things. I think, and then there, what we are doing too, the experts are coming from the UK, from the US, and from China and Canada to train us, so that we can in turn transmit the skills we acquire to the learners. Yeah, so that we lay emphasis on what? If you are born in a well-to-do family, for instance, the moral decadence we are talking of in school today.
Children harassing their teachers.
We are not training civilized demons just to pack the knowledge in your head, and then tomorrow you are lacking in terms of moral standing.
You become a threat to the society.
We lay a lot of emphasis on character, that moral standing. So if you are a medical practitioner tomorrow, you think of saving somebody's life, or you see the person crying in agony before money comes thereafter. If you are a judge in a court, don't receive billions and then you do injustice to somebody whom you know is innocent. So we lay a lot of emphasis on good character, respect, all the moral, the virtues in life that you can think of, humility, all of that. We lay emphasis on that, so that our learners are not just civilized demons, so to speak. And then we also say, those of you from well-to-do family, for instance, you are born with a golden spoon in your mouth. We try to let the parents and the pupils know that life is not a bed of roses. Life is not a bed of roses. So we train them how to manage money, how to be responsible in managing money. So that when you graduate from we open their eyes to the opportunities in the world that has become a global village. So that you can seize this. We have 70% English, 20% French, and 10% Chinese. Can you grab those opportunities with the Chinese investing in Cameroon, Africa, thanks to the knowledge of Chinese? Do you master the world around you? The opportunities that come your way after finishing the primary school? Can you become an entrepreneur. These are the things we lay emphasis on, so that people are educated and they have jobs, and they become good citizens.
We are going to separate. Thank you so much, Mr. Buell. We are going to separate. That was quite impressive. What I retained from it is the digitalization. Yes, that's the new word that is coming into education recently, and we are going to separate. A last word from you, Mr. Ernest Akufo, before we part ways. It was quite a pleasure having you here, gentlemen.
The pleasure was shared, Flora.
And well, talking about digitalization, let's briefly get out of that.
I think when we talk digitalization today, is the new modus operandi in the education milieu.
Correct.
In the sense that people who not computer literate will be considered